Hello, Dr. Gill here with another bonus video. This video is going to be a sort of scatter shot of a bunch of different things that I wanted to show off that would have been too short on their own as a video. First thing we're going to be looking at is a trick I might have called quick draw at some points, or I might not have called it anything. When I showed it off way back in episode 3, when you have an item in your hand and try to pull out another item, it causes some weird things. Quick draw is what it is called when you pull out an item right before you hit the water. It will start pulling out the item, it'll start the animation, but when you get out of the water, you won't have it in your hand. And if you press the item, it would instantly pop in your hand. But if you were to use this between two different items, they call that action swap, or that's what some people call it. Maybe it doesn't have a specific name. So if I have the slingshot in my hand and then quick draw the stick, let's say, like what I'm doing here, that would be an action swap. It's a lot of different terminology. But all that is just to show what happens if you were to get a slingshot and then pull out a stick and then light it. If you notice, already something weird happens. The top part of the stick is gone, but now there is, well, some weird stuff's happening, right? I just burned the web from over here. So what happens is when you action swap a stick with a slingshot, it causes some weird things if you burn the stick. You can see that, well, behind me there's sort of just a long stick. After you burn it, it seems to cause basically infinite stick in the opposite direction of where the stick should be pointing. Why this happens, no clue. What uses have? Pretty much nothing. It does extend infinitely backwards, meaning you can hit other stuff, but it doesn't really have much use. And another weird thing about this is that I speed through to waste some time, but if you notice, the part that's in front of Link keeps getting bigger and bigger as time passes. Like starting out, it had no length, basically. It was nothing. But I waited a couple minutes, and now it's like this huge spear. I don't know. The part in front of you doesn't really have like a hitbox. You can't hit anything. It's all behind you and infinitely backwards. So wherever the first contact with something behind you happens, that's what gets hit. Which is why it's how I killed stuff earlier and how I just like killed that thing. I had to be facing away from it. How I looked at web is because at some point it's on fire too. I don't know. Very weird trick that really doesn't have any uses. And I don't know if anyone really understands why it causes that specific thing to happen. The Deku spear or whatever. It's very, very weird. I don't know. Another thing you could do with action swap is if you do it with bombs or a bomb chew, which you can do, it doesn't cause, you can't like shoot seeds or arrows like you could with the other stuff, but it does cause some weird things. What I just did right there is I had a slingshot and then sort of quick drew or pull out a bomb chew, and what that happens is I could pull out the slingshot still and then release the bomb chew immediately from the slingshot camera, which you're never supposed to be able to do, and that actually stores a ground jump. What I'm trying to do here is set it up again. I put the slingshot in my hand, pull out a chew. It does take a little time for me to get it. I don't have set up for this or anything in this Deku tree. But if I were to now backflip and pull out a chew, it sort of quick draws the chew, or pulls it out instantly, and because of that, it's sort of in link. Just a weird effect. Again, it has no use. There's maybe some use for storing that ground jump that I showed off earlier, but other than that, this whole quick draw action swap glitch doesn't have too many good uses, aside from bottle on B, which again I showed off. Quick way into Jabu-Jabu. That's a little bit faster than the old way, which I think a lot of people might be aware of, where you can just jump on top of Jabu's snout, his nose, and you get in. That time I just hit the pillar with my sword, and I sort of recoiled into the loading zone of Jabu-Jabu. I personally like that one a lot better. It's a little bit quicker, and it's a lot easier, I think. But here I wanted to show off one thing that I didn't need to do. You rarely need to do, but it looks really funny. So, well, first off, I do want to show that as a child, or as an adult, I used hover boots to get across, but you can also just use a bomb chew or a bomb to mega flip across. It's another way you can skip having to go past the big octo and climb all the way up Jabu-Jabu and then hit that platform that lowers, that's supposed to allow you over here. So all that was to skip all that. So that's basically a big octo skip right there. You would still need the boomerang, obviously, to beat Baronade. But mega flipping across like that, as an adult or as a child, lets you skip Big Octo, the mini boss of this dungeon. However, there is another skip you can do without any explosives, or without the hover boots, obviously. There's one more skip you can do, and it requires this jellyfish here, the Beery. So, the Beeries are a weird enemy in that when they hit you, you can block them, but when that happens, they start rising up. But because of that, if you sort of mash the A button while having ISG, the Beery keeps raising up, and you keep backflipping up, and it keeps hitting your shield constantly. And what that happens is basically it allows you to fly upwards. Again, I'm hovering. I've shown off hovering before, and I've shown it off with bombs, but it works with any damage source that you can shield, and that's what I'm showing off here, basically. And because the Beery, the jellyfish, moves up every time it hits you, or hits your shield, you can just keep doing that over and over again. So now I'm all the way up at the top of Jabu-Jabu. I do it a few more times just to show it off. You can keep doing it until it probably reaches ceiling. Funny little trick, one way to skip all the way to the top of Jabu-Jabu. And this would be the section behind the Big Octo. You could actually go into the Big Octo room from behind, but it would cause him not to spawn. Because you need Gerudo anyways. But that allows you to hit the platform and get down here. And it was basically a way to get over here without having to use any explosives or anything. Funny trick. I kind of wish I showed it off in the main LP. Alright, now what we're going to do is Gerudo Training Ground stuff. This is a different file. I don't have the Gerudo card right now. So what I want to do is show how to get into the Gerudo Training Ground without having the card, which you would pay that Gerudo right there to get in. But that Gerudo right there doesn't act like the other ones. The ones in the white clothes, they can't see you. Or if they do see you, they don't register you as being captured, I think. At least not that one, and some of the other ones. And if you do a little sort of precise setup right there, you can actually clip through the gate. And if you wanted to, you could just walk right in. But you need the hover boots for this. There is one other way in there, however, that doesn't require the hover boots. And also there is the way that I did sort of show off in the LP. You could wrong warp into there, which is a somewhat typical way to do it. But there are other ways in there. What I need to do is sort of climb up a little bit of the fortress. And I'm going to be showing off the clip that I've done a couple of times, and I did it in a bonus video, and I did it at the Spirit Temple. They call it the ledge clip. It's where I target a wall as I'm falling off a ledge. You have to be it's a bit precise how it works, about how the wall positioning, or at least how you have to be positioned towards the wall. But if you have this sort of ledge wall configuration, it makes it really easy to do it without having to take much effort. So it lets you clip into certain ledges, clip through certain walls, as long as they're sort of oriented correctly and you target them correctly. And from here you could actually fall into the Gerudo Training Ground loading zone. But I have to be a little careful because there's actually a different loading zone. You can sort of see it right there, right to the left of me. I have to get to one below it, so I have to sort of avoid the one on top and fall into the one below it. Not incredibly difficult, but I hadn't done this in a while, so I was making sure I had it correctly. So now we're in the Gerudo Training Grounds. What I want to show off here is that, well, while you can get light arrows, or not light, ice arrows really easily, there's still a lot of other funny things you can do in here regarding the keys for Gerudo Training Ground. So the way I do it, you weird shot right to the end, yeah, ice arrows. So you don't need any keys, but there is a lot of funny stuff about keys that you can do in Gerudo Training Ground. But first, I'm getting the ice arrows actually for something else that'll happen later in the video. That's not really the main point of me being here in Gerudo Training Ground, though. So I'm gonna weird shot back over there, and if you remember that chest that I'm looking at in front of me, that's a bomb shoe chest that's supposed to have 5 bomb shoes. However, I don't have any bomb shoes right now. I've never gotten any, but I did RBA an amount of bomb shoes beforehand. And for this chest, if you get it, it gives you 5 bomb shoes, but it adds it to your total, your previous total, and then puts the bomb shoe in your inventory. So I have 34. But not all bomb shoe chests do that. Sometimes they just overwrite them with the amount that you have. So even if I RB'd an amount, it would still give me just however many are in the chest and just set it to that amount. And I don't know why there's that inconsistency. So what I'm going to show off here is that key that was on top of the platform, that key, because it's just hanging out in nowhere, you can actually dupe it. One way I could have done, which I can't do right now, if I had a long shot, I could actually weird shot here and then long shot to the fences that were in the room I was just in, where the bomb chute chest was. I can long shot over there, but this room is still loaded. So I'm out of bounds, and I could actually walk back into this room and walk out, walk back in, and dupe the keys of Gerudo Training Ground in the same way that I dupe Skulltulas in the Lost Woods. But I don't have a long shot, and having a long shot here is pretty rare, I think. So there is actually a different way to dupe those keys that's a little bit... You don't need as much equipment to do. But I need to go in this room first and clear out an enemy just so I can get to the door. Just so I can go through the door, because if you notice when I walked in, there were bars raised on the door. So I kill all the enemies just to open the door. And then this door is going to let me dupe keys. Well, with the trick that I was showing off before. But right before I do that, this chest right here is on fire, and as I showed off in Spirit Temple, you can actually just walk or roll right into chests that are on fire. Takes me a few tries, but it's not particularly hard, and the invincibility frames of rolling means you don't actually take that much damage. You can just roll into that chest, and that makes it easier to get the key, because normally you need the hammer to lower the fire. So this is a glitch I showed off in the Spirit Temple again, and in the Water Temple. I move while the door's closing, and that changes my entrance location. They call this the entrance point glitch, or the entry point glitch, because it messes with how the game thinks you entered the room. But I do that to get out of bounds, and from here I can walk to a certain point and look towards that section of the Gerudo Training Grounds where like the bomb tubes were, the ice arrows were, which is over in that direction. So I'm basically just getting there in a different way than I explained with the long shot. Long shot would have let you get there right away, but with just bomb shoes and a hook shot, you can actually just hover over there. And these are actually a specific kind of hover that I haven't shown off before. If you look upwards with a first-person object, just straight upwards, and then backflip and chew, you can just do hovers that way. But it only works in certain areas. I think there has to be in a certain amount of lag. You can't just do this anywhere. I don't know why. And this is what it looks like from like a third-person perspective. I don't know why the camera flipped here, actually. It's totally facing the wrong way, and it actually made this a little bit more difficult. And why I'm pausing it after each time, because I have to change direction to backflip. But this is what it looks like, and you can see how it makes Link look pretty messed up. It sort of contorts him a bit, and that's why these are called contortion hovers. And again, they only work in certain areas. They work here. They work getting to Genna's castle without the Rainbow Bridge. You would do these, but they don't work everywhere. I don't know exactly what. I think it just has to do with how much lag there is. But you do a bunch of hovers backwards, and now I'm in this section. This is where I got the bomb shoes. This is the section right where I had gotten the bomb shoes. And every time I do this, every time I walk towards the key, I'm basically loading a new key. I tried side hopping a bit too. I don't know exactly where the trigger is, like I did in the Lost Woods, so I was just kind of doing it blindly. But every time I'm going to the left, basically, I'm trying to dupe it. I don't get every single one of these hops to the left as a dupe. I don't know if it's because there's a limit. Sometimes it'll just stop duping because it can't load anymore. But I also might have just not been in the right spot. But it does. I had to dupe enough, and you can see I just keep getting keys over and over again. And if you wanted to, I guess you could do this to go through all the doors without having to skip to the ice arrows. But I don't know. And not really too much point to do this outside of like some niche things you want to do. I don't know. But it shows that you can do it, and it's a fun little trick to do, I think. Alright, now I'm going to show off a little bit of Shadow Temple stuff, just because there are some cool stuff that I didn't really go over. The first thing I'm going to show off is how to get into the Shadow Temple without the ways that I've done. And you can actually climb up the seam. It's really pretty tough, so I was really a lot careful about it. But from up here, you can do the ledge clip that I just talked about in the Gerudo Training Grounds, off of this ledge right here. But it's also more difficult than other ones. I'm going to drop and then jump slash in. But I had to wait to fall based on the breathing animation of Link while he was on the ledge. Because that actually affects it. If I didn't wait to the right time, I would have just fallen out of bounds. So it's a bit of a more precise trick than usual. Usually you don't have to pay attention to Link's animation so closely for a lot of tricks. But here, solving this puzzle pretty easily. Normally supposed to collect all 5 rupees, which I actually skipped as a kid because I didn't need to do this puzzle, but I need this small key. Or it's the fastest way to get a small key as an adult. Look at it right away. And then I'm going to show off how to clip through the gate that I did as a child using a very strange glitch called a weird slide. As an adult though, with the right angle, you can just jump slash through the gate. And if you climb back up, you pop back in. This is me actually screwing up. I was just having a little bit of trouble, even though this glitch is actually incredibly simple. It takes 3 side hops to the left, as you see, and it takes a very slight movement to the right, as you see up, and that's all you need for the angle. And you can just fall through. And from here, I don't need to hover across like I did as a child. I can actually just jump up to this section of the boat and play Zelda's Lullaby here. And I will show off one boat thing too. The Stalfos fight, I fought them as a child, just illegitimately basically. But there are sort of safe strategies for doing this. If you climb up the boat to this spot right here, on the tip of the boat, the Stalfos actually can't hit you at all, no matter what. And eventually they'll fall off too. And if they fall fast enough, or if you get rid of the first one fast enough, if you stand on this part of the boat, the second one won't actually ever fall onto the boat. So, it's a safe way to do it. Now we're at the boss door. I had to get the boss key as a child, but as an adult, you can actually skip through it. You don't need the key. Using the glitch that I showed off twice already, the ledge clip. It's a little bit harder though. What you actually have to do is ledge clip, but at the right time so that a bomb blasts you on the right frame into the loading zone. You can't just clip normally. I use a bomb tube, which is a little bit tougher, but it's also a little flashier. So I pause, buffer to here, clip, and then the bomb blasts me into the loading zone. So I don't need the boss key. And now this is what the ice arrows are for. There's a trick you can do with the ice arrows that I think a lot of people wouldn't know about, because I suppose it's pretty obscure for it to even happen, for the condition to be set up. I think most people wouldn't have ice arrows here, especially because I think a lot of people do Shadow Temple before Spirit Temple. I don't know. But with this Bongo fight, I'm gonna actually not use any glitches. I think it's possible I might use some that I don't even realize, but it should be glitchless. So this is what I've used it for, and what a lot of people don't know about. If you shoot Bongo's hands, one of his hands with ice arrows, it freezes, and his other hand tries to break out the frozen hand by smashing it. It's a specific animation that they programmed for, and most things don't have this. But while this is happening, you can actually shoot Bongo while he's doing that, and then just go and hit him. And as I mentioned, you can actually just constantly spin slash and keep him stun locked, and he just can't get out of it. And you kill him. Completely glitchless. I didn't use ISG or anything. I didn't even use hover boost. I just used the ice arrows, which I think is actually the fastest way to kill Bongo Bongo. But again, you rarely have ice arrows during this fight. It's a really funny trick though, and shows that there's a lot of small little nuances to this game that I guess they even kind of maybe expected that people wouldn't find. I don't know. Really cool though. And that'll be the end of this video, so hope everyone liked it. Thanks for watching.